Let me firstly recognize the presence of Liberia's ambassador to the Republic of Germany, Her Excellency Elta Davis, and members of the embassy staff. You are welcome. I also want to recognize Professor Hager, the High Commissioner of Nigeria in Canada. Professor, you are also welcome. Mr. Executive Director and founder of the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy, young leaders, participants, ladies and gentlemen. I consider it a distinguished honor and a source of great pleasure to be among such an array of outstanding young leaders and other stakeholders as we consider some of the issues pertinent to the general well-being of young people in Africa and to mankind as a whole. I bring you sincere greetings from the President of the Republic of Liberia, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the government and the people of Africa's oldest independent nation, and in my own name. It is my wish that our deliberations will engender dynamic actions designed to help shape the destiny of generations to come. Also, let me say how delighted I am as Minister of Information, Culture, and Tourism of Liberia to join the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy at this historic conference, where the exchange of ideas and the review of our cultural and touristic perspectives could provide greater opportunities for cooperation on several levels. My ministry, as with other government agencies in our country, is striving to restore our cultural heritage, reconstruct and upgrade historic sites, cultural centers and museums, and to stimulate a resurgence of our art, music, folklore, and build other institutions damaged by 15 years of civil war. As we meet to reflect on some matters affecting young people in Africa, permit me to delve a little into two cardinal policies that have been the bedrocks of our national policies, which are under consideration at this conference: culture and diplomacy. Liberia gained its independence in 1847, emerging as Africa's first and only republic at that time. Our country consists of an amalgamation of two cultures, working in consonance towards creating a cohesive system of traditional and Western-oriented values. When the settlers arrived in Liberia in the early 1800s to establish a republic for settling free blacks from the United States, they encountered an ancient-old establishment that comprised its own political institutions and philosophies, method of governance, its own music, dance, marriage ceremonies, and diverse social structures. During its 164 years of existence, except for a few tribal wars and the civil conflict of the 1990s, the two groups have coexisted and worked assiduously to overcome tribal, social, and ethnic barriers. Liberians are generally friendly and cordial, mingling easily among its multicultural population and respected for affording the most hospitable accommodation to visitors. Comprising a population of a little over 3 million, the people speak 16 indigenous languages while retaining English as the official medium of communication. Among the most important manifestations of our culture are our music and dance, and each group participating or practicing distinctive presentations of these forms of art. Liberia also has an important trademark of greeting as manifested in a snap after executing the regular handshake. Although Liberia was founded as a Christian nation, the government has traditionally allowed all religions, denominations, and institutions to coexist and even flourish. Today, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, the Baha'i faith, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, all have establishments in the country. Liberia has also maintained two forms of fraternal organizations, prominent among which are the Western-oriented Masonic craft and the traditional Sunday and Poro societies, whose rituals are practiced throughout the nation. These institutions inculcate the virtues that are normal in the body politic. The second important issue reflected in the principles of this august body is that of diplomacy, and it is my pleasure to briefly reflect on Liberia's role in the international community. Following its declaration of independence in 1847, the young republic experienced untold instances of harassment by foreign powers and constant threats to its territorial existence. During the fight for colonial expansion, much of Liberia's territory was annexed to British and French colonies bordering the republic. However, with a strong determination to survive amidst unfavorable odds, the infant nation persevered. When the League of Nations was established in Paris in 1920, Liberia was the only independent West African nation to sign its charter. At the end of World War II, when the League of Nations gave way to the formation of the United Nations, Liberia was also one of Africa's only independent nations, in addition to Ethiopia, to attach its signature to the charter. As African nations gained independence in the early 1960s, thanks to the encouragement of Liberia, the need for a continental organization became imperative. Through several initiatives, including many formative meetings of African leaders in Liberia, the Organization of African Unity was established in May of 1963 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Since then, Liberia has supported independence and freedom throughout the continent and has remained one of the oldest and most supportive members of the organization. Our country was also a founding member of the Economic Community of West African States, referred to as ECOWAS, established in Lagos, Nigeria in 1975, and the Mana River Union, comprising neighboring countries, which was founded in October 1973. In every respect, Liberia has sought to promote and encourage peace, unity, and cooperation among all states on the continent and all member nations of the United Nations. Ladies and gentlemen, within the same vein of international relations, I am delighted to state that under a dedicated leadership and a bold outreach policy by my government to the international community, we have come a long way in terms of human and physical regeneration. Basic infrastructures are being restored, opportunities for young people are on the rise, idled, destroyed, or damaged industries are being repaired and restarted, while the human spirit is vibrant and on the ascendancy. I use this forum to urge the international community to continue to show its sympathy and goodwill towards Liberia and its people, who have demonstrated a bold spirit of resilience and a strong determination to forge ahead despite years of physical and human degradation. reflecting on the dangerous consequences of world and social upheaval, I call on all of you at this forum to do all within your power to discourage any and all forms of destructiveness and to direct all of your mental and physical potentials toward the greater good of mankind. Even as we meet in this historic city and celebrate the achievement of freedom and self-determination, many nations and peoples, particularly on our own continent of Africa, are experiencing desperate challenges and excessive turmoil such as wars, diseases, poverty, as well as high degree of physical destitution, HIV and AIDS, malaria, starvation, famine, and other forms of deprivations brought about by drought and man-made disasters continue to affect us. Our women and girls are constantly challenged by inhumane and degrading forms of sexual abuse, slavery in war-torn areas of our continent, and other forms of involuntary subjugation continue to plague young people all over the world. In many places on our continent, the proliferation of evil continues, and the downgrading of humanity stifles the human consciousness. The yearning for freedom, democracy, and human dignity is still being unattained. Troubling political, economic, and social conditions on our continent are taking millions of young people to the streets and the squares. Fortunately, in their daring attempts to decide their common destinies, aided by the increasing effects of social networkings, their calls have yielded resounding results. Ladies and gentlemen, at this distinguished gathering, it is incumbent upon us to propose, develop, and examine strategies necessary to confront the challenges of the 21st century and to answer the question as to whether Africa has the required conditions to face up to these challenges. Undoubtedly, we can continue to expect economic, social, and political disparity in all nations. The mighty and powerful will continue to exercise unparalleled disadvantage over the weak and helpless. War and its devastating antecedents will follow mankind all the time. Terrorism will continue to lay waste on innocent people everywhere. The challenges of human trafficking, youth unemployment, infringement of women's rights, and the sexual exploitation of girls and women, the use of child soldiers, tribal and ethnic conflicts, and rape are all parts of the mounting problems we are to deal with if we are to secure a better future for present and future generations of young people. Global climate change, youth unemployment, the continuing prevalence of HIV and AIDS, and its devastating effects on the human population, malaria and other forms of health hazards are also challenges facing mankind, especially the young people. In the region of the world where I come from, we are continuing to face degrading human standards. We are struggling to cope with problems of education, sanitation, and other health problems that continue to challenge our meager resources. In order to deal with the ever-present problems of society, we must consider the following ideas. First and foremost, we need an educated and enlightened present and future generation to cope with the challenges that will propel our continent to greater destinies. Secondly, as we advance the course of education, we must ensure that emphasis is placed on science, mathematics, and other fields that challenge inventiveness, technical advancement, creativeness, and social responsibility. Thirdly, we need a healthy population where the ravages of disease and suffering will give way to a vibrant and dynamic population. Thus, the developed nations have a decisive role to play in helping Africa overcome its ever-increasing health and medical needs. Fourthly, we need to create an atmosphere where freedom and democracy will give way to repression, oppression, fear, and the unhealthy dynamics of single-party rule that was a part of Africa's unfortunate political legacy for generations. We must create conditions necessary for young people to succeed in government and to obtain proper training for usefulness in national development efforts and in achieving the goal of youth empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, we realize that this conference focuses on young leaders and the future of the world and the foundation of prosperity and the inheritors of the great new Africa in the world we are endeavoring to build. If the character of these young people is well molded, the successful future of the world and its institutions will prevail, and so will the incentives for growth, energy, and enthusiasm necessary to build a new and vibrant continent in the world. Without doubt, our continent is facing one of its most promising decades. Independence had long succeeded centuries of colonialism, and nearly the whole of the continent can celebrate the untold benefits of freedom and democracy. In many countries of Africa, including my native land, Liberia, democracy is taking a strong hold, and the promises of a better future are gaining hold on the young people. As we face the question of whether Africa is preparing to face the challenges of the 21st century, it is important to reflect on the fact that throughout the continent, emphasis is being placed on improving democratic institutions, on the advancement of good governance and proper political leadership, and on strategies for preparing young people to play more responsible roles in the future of their respective countries and the African continent as a whole. We realize also that with the development of our abundant natural resources, with more of the benefit going to the majority of the people, with the discovery of oil and the exploitation of timber and other natural resources on the continent, the standard of living is rising, and the gap between the rich and the poor is diminishing. Even in my own country, ladies and gentlemen, the level of education for the young population is increasing, even as we strive to overcome the devastation of human and physical facilities during our civil war. And even as we cannot meet the immediate needs of our growing population, we have the resources and potentials to build viable societies on the continent and to contribute immensely to the economic development of our world. As in many other African nations, and Liberia is no exception, economic empowerment is accelerating with the reopening of iron ore mining companies, the implementation of agreements to develop and export forest products, with the accelerating of agricultural production, and with increasing emphasis on our gold and mining potentials. Whereas we enjoy freedom and a growing sense of human dignity in our country under the leadership of Mistress Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, in many parts of Africa and the world, human freedom and the search for dignity of the human personality still challenge us. The fundamental question asked in this presentation is whether Africa has what it takes to face the challenges of the 21st century. I will argue in the affirmative. Our continent is rich in resources: iron ore, rubber, oil, cocoa, coffee, palm oil, timber, bauxite, gold, diamond, and many other minerals. that, if properly applied to the welfare of the people, who solve their economic problems. Africa also has great leaders, or those with the potential of producing governments that could fashion national policies to suit the needs of the upcoming generations. As young people, it is your responsibility to continue to agitate for freedom, self-determination, good governance, and political, social, educational, and economic opportunities. Let us strive to ensure that the vast resources endowed by nature for the good of the African people be used for their benefit. Let us endeavor to force upon our leaders the need to provide opportunities for the advancement of the human resources of the young people. Let us seek the development of our institutions through peaceful dialogue with those who govern us. As we strive for individual success, we must not relent in our pursuit of excellence and strive to build a new Africa, where the hopes and aspirations of young leaders will be adequately articulated. Please accept my thanks and appreciation for this unique opportunity to be here and to share in the cultural and touristic discussions that are part of this special forum. I shall leave here more fully aware of the needs of the young people of Africa and the world, and will carry with me fond memories of hospitality and kindness so graciously bestowed upon me while here in Berlin, while here in Germany. Thank you very much. Disease and suffering will give way to a vibrant and dynamic population